Well, I think one of the first things that I would talk about is having diverse experiences. When you look at diverse experiences, it means working in different sectors, and working with different regions, different kinds of businesses, different growth patterns. All of this gives you an understanding of how the entire opportunity lies in terms of what can you do differently. And more often than not, really, you start to think of doing something differently because the familiar pattern doesn't work. So that's really when I would try out something different. So I would say diversity of experiences, and which means that you actually constantly look for opportunities to do something differently. Number two, I would say that when you work with a very different set of people. I worked with artists, painters, photographers, and brought in a lot of the performing arts into the work that I do. And I found that very fulfilling for myself. I've learned a tremendous amount from working with people who have nothing to do with the corporate world. And that has been a great source of learning for me. And when I've incorporated those, I think it's worked well for the people I've taken this to. And of course, I would also say that having a great diverse set of advisors has been very useful for me, because I always used to say that companies have advisors, they have a board of directors, and they get so many people who can tell them what to do, what not to do. What do individuals do about it then? So I worked with a range of people who were very generous with their time. They came from different backgrounds. All were really at the pinnacle of the field, and they were, nice enough to offer a novice guidance about what I could do. And I think that really worked well, because they would critique the work that I would do. And I think in creativity, one of the biggest things which is not talked about so much is, you have to get very comfortable with failure. You have to get comfortable with somebody telling you this is not good. You have to get comfortable by knowing that your best work doesn't even meet minimum standards. So it's quite hurtful when somebody says it. But then, learning by definition has an element of pain inbuilt into it. So when people are doing something despite the fact that it hurts, that's when you're growing. So when you're trying to lift weights in the gym and somebody says, this is the max I can do, and your coach tells you, do 2 more. Those 2 is really what is adding to it. It's not the previous ones that you've done. And I think, just being comfortable with the idea that you'll try it, and if it doesn't work, you'll start it again. When I try to learn something about a field, I would read about it, I would try out different things, I would meet people. So it's always a question of balancing out what is theoretical with what is practical. In general, I like to start with the theory, because it tells you what you are not doing. Because practical is what you're already doing anyway, or even if you can't do it, somebody else has already done it. So there is a known path. But if you're trying to work on something which has not been done, then you need to sort of draw in from multiple disciplines. You create a kind of a recipe for yourself based on the different disciplines that you are bringing things from. And that's really what creates a new recipe. So that's how I look at it.